Hey Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and welcome to Stellaris. There has recently been a new DLC released called Toxoids, and today we're going to be playing with Toxoids. For those of you who aren't super familiar with Stellaris, I will be going slowly and explaining exactly what I'm doing in the early game, and then in the mid to late game I'll transition into giving you the highlights. Well, what are we looking at here? Well, this is a faction that I have created. These are the children of Blurgle, who live on ocean worlds. We are a theocratic dictatorship, and our origin is that we are the knights of a toxic god, and we have to search for our toxic god somewhere out there in the galaxy. The Blurglings are in fact toxoids. They are aquatic incubators who are unruly and traditional. Aquatic is quite nice because it'll mean that we'll have a good time living on our ocean worlds. However, we will have to get terraforming technology in order to really make use of any other worlds at all. We're also incubators, which means the lower our population, the faster our population growth, which means we'll be able to reach useful amounts of population faster. And then kind of as a planet is fully developed, it won't develop as quickly, which is fine. We can live with that, because my hope is that the extra early game population growth will mean that I can offset the negatives with bonuses from technology and infrastructure. We're also unruly, so we have slightly more empire size from population. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And most importantly, we are traditional, getting us extra unity from our jobs, and that will play into our actual build. I will explain what all of these resources are later. I just want to give you an overview of what we're actually playing. We are going to be taking the Exalted Priesthood ethic. I think this is called ethics. I don't remember what these are called. Essentially, we're a holy order, and our priests will give us extra unity, which should combine with traditional to give us a ton of unity. We're also anglers because it's kind of fun. My favorite Stellaris pack to release so far was the aquatic pack, so I really like playing with anglers. Basically just turns our farmers into higher quality farmers. They'll be able to produce a lot more food, trade value, and consumer goods. We're also authoritarian and fanatically spiritual. Those will all play into our strategy a little bit later on. Authoritarian means we'll be able to expand a little bit easier and run some slightly more optimal policies. And then fanatic spiritualist, well, that just seemed thematic for me. In terms of the galaxy type that we're going to be playing on, I'm playing on a custom galaxy that I quite like and enjoy. Essentially, it is a large style. I could make it bigger with a random amount of players with no advanced AIs, with the maximum amount of fallen empires, because those are fun. Those can awaken and try to purge the galaxy. We're playing with the minimum amount of habitable worlds, but the maximum amount of primitive civilizations. So there won't be many empty, unoccupied planets. There will be a lot of planets that actually already have young civilizations living on them. Perhaps they're in the Stone Age. Perhaps we uplift them. Perhaps we conquer them. Perhaps we purge them. We will have interesting choices about how we deal with these primitive civilizations. They might even appear throughout the game and become their own civilization in the game. We also have a slightly shorter game. The end game crisis will appear 150 years into the game instead of 200 years, and the game will end after 200 years. We're playing on captain difficulty. I'm not really fussed about playing Stellaris super efficiently, and then slightly less mobility across the galaxy on my end. But that's basically it. Oh yeah, and I have 2x logistic growth ceiling. I find this just makes the game more fun. Population will grow faster, and then this will mean that the negatives for population growth will kick in slower. So generally we're going to have quite a bit of a faster game, especially if we can acquire planets nice and early. This does slightly unbalance the game the way that I've set it up, but I think it makes the game interesting. It makes it kind of fun. It makes it kind of, have a little bit of an arc to it. Now, we're going to be playing as the Knights of a Toxic God, which means we start off with an incredibly important situation right here, the quest for the Toxic God. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stages, and each stage, a critical event will trigger for our empire that will change the course of our empire. I'm going to go ahead and immediately go to generous funding. This will give us an extra 10% unity, which factors into our build because our goal in the early game is to generate as much unity as humanly possible. And the reason I want to do that is because unity is used to acquire traditions, and it's also used to run edicts. And there's a couple of traditions and edicts that I really want to acquire. What I would really like to do is to acquire both the expansion policies. Sorry, what are they called? Sorry, I would like to acquire expansion edicts, expansion traditions, so that I can expand across the galaxy more easily. And I'd also like to acquire the discovery traditions so that I can explore the galaxy more efficiently and more effectively. We have a lot of things we have to worry about in the early game, but we can explain things as we go. The very first thing that I like to do in my game is to pick my starting technologies. Let's go ahead and grab ourselves capacity subsidies. Energy grid is a really, really useful. This is a really useful technology, and energy subsidies will increase the amount of energy that we can make. This just kind of pushes us in an energy generation direction. 10% pop growth speed is super good early into the game, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that. That'll give us a really good arc. That in terms of our engineering technology, we could immediately go for habitats and start building our own microplanets, but I think I would much rather go for something like powered exoskeletons for that 5% extra minerals from jobs. Every little bit of extra resource resource we can eke out from our planets here will be super helpful because we are at a deficit of certain resources. Next up, we are going to start to very carefully explore. We're only going to explore. Oh, by the way, I have guaranteed habitable planets turned off. So it's entirely possible that I spawn with no settleable planets nearby. And I think that's a more interesting game if you're sometimes forced to have a single planet. But yes, we're going to go to maximum speed. We're going to unpause the game, and we have set a science ship to explore only the closest areas next to me. We're also going to go ahead and set food to automatically sell 20 food per month because I want to get rid of that food. And then I'm going to set minerals to automatically buy 10 per month because I need extra minerals so that I can redevelop my capital and also redevelop this special station that we start with. Because we're the Knights of the Toxic God, our planet starts with less population, but we do start with a special fortress station that is the home of the Order's Keep. And essentially this is where we're going to get our knights, our squires, and our Lord Commander. These guys, depending on their rank, will give us bonuses towards the quest for the Toxic Job. The Toxic God. So we're going to have to wait until population grows in here, and it should grow reasonably quickly, all things considered. Now, we do have our first unity point because we're making an absurd, and I mean absurd amount of unity per month because I picked Fanatic Spiritualist. I get to start with 2 temples of my capital, which means I have 4 priest jobs running right here, priests, and they are generating, if I go into here and come down to check my priests, each priest is generating a baseline of 5 unity because I get +1 from being a theocracy. And that's going all the way up to nearly double. We're getting nearly 8 unity per priest, which means we're going to be able to rush down these traditions super fast. I'm going to go ahead and take expansion first. Or wait, do I want to go to discovery first? No, I think I go expansion first. And this will mean we get starbase influence cost reduced by 10%, which means we'll have an easier time expanding into the world. The very first thing we get is colony development speed. But the main reason we're going for expansion is, first of all, we want pop growth speed. We also want +1 population when we start a new colony. We want it to be cheaper to expand. And we want empire size as well as upkeep to be reduced. And most importantly here, because there's not a lot of planets in this world, we want to maximize the quality of our planets. And if we fully finish the expansion tradition tree, we will in fact get +1 maximum district on non-artificial planets only, which will be extremely useful. That's essentially +1 size to our planets. And that's going to be really, really important so that we can maximize the size of this planet, which will maximize its potential, which will maximize the growth on this planet. So hopefully that all made sense. Think of traditions like the Civ 5 policy trees. If you've, like we've already leveled it up, by the way, which if you've played Stellaris, you should not be getting 2 traditions in your first year of gameplay. You usually get one like every couple of years, but we're like rushing them hard. Looks like we have indeed found remnants of another civilization. We have found an archaeological site here that we'll be able to explore and take control of later on, but we're not going to worry too much about that. We will, however, set our first contact protocols to open arms. We would like to make friends with some of the galaxy. We don't necessarily want to be hostile, and it looks like our energy income is going to get burnt. I'm going to halve the amount of resources that I'm buying. Let's go ahead and edit that, and that should fix my energy income. Perfect. Another tradition, there's the 10% pop growth speed, and you can see that that is now reflected in my population growth over here. We're getting +10%. We're also getting 16% bonus from incubators, which is really, really nice. We're actually getting the full 30% bonus on the station, so we should find ourselves with quite a lot of population relatively early into the game. Now, we have a decent amount of minerals stocked up, so we're going to make a very controversial change here. I'm actually going to delete these research labs and replace it with yes, more temples. I want even more unity because I want to run a lot of edicts, and I also want to get as many traditions as possible as soon as possible. I'm going to build a mining station around Onerous Descent, which is a planet inside my capital system. You don't have to worry about how these capital systems work exactly, but essentially it will give us 6 energy and 3 alloys, and alloys are your military resource. It is how you build ships. It is how you conquer the world. It is very, very important. We fully surveyed the dim system, and we only found 5 energy and an archaeological site, which is fine. Our main plan here is to try to balance our economy using the trade screen. So like right now I need to buy 1 consumer good. I'll probably sell an alloy because I'm about to have a slight surplus of alloys. But we basically want to have like a relatively balanced economy. I think I'm going to stop buying minerals because we actually have a stockpile of minerals now. We're making a decent amount. We have access to another tradition. We're already getting reach of stars. Now again, if you've played Stellaris, you understand how insane it is. Imagine having a Civ 5 policy tree done on like turn 20. That's essentially the build that we've gone for here, is that we're going to be able to rush down these policy trees, which should hopefully pay dividends later on in the game. Let's go ahead and build a research station around Rascal's Delight. This will give us a very slight boost to physics research. It's not a huge amount, but it is a nice amount. All right, let's go ahead and take Courier Network. This will decrease our empire size. And remember, because there isn't a lot of civs and a lot of planets on this map, we are going to have to expand very, very wide. And that will mean that we're going to own a lot of colonies, a lot of systems, all that sort of stuff, which is going to start to hurt our empire sprawl. The bigger our empire, the more penalties to technology and unity we take. So we do want to kind of manage that as an active thing. I don't see a system that has particularly high enough quality for me to want to colonize it yet, so I'm going to be just staying on my capital system for a little while, and that'll make sense later on in the game. We are finding these anomalies that we can go ahead and research, but again, I'm going to be holding off on researching them for a little while. We can begin the Habitable Worlds survey. This is essentially a quest to survey a variety of different planets, and we will get some rewards after doing it. We can also now adopt the final part of the expansion tree, giving us galactic ambition. So now our star bases, which I believe is this thing right here, is a starbase. You can see inside this planetary system, there is a starbase right here. And this has an upkeep. Let me see, is there a way for me to show you that upkeep? Ah, yeah, there it is right there. It has an upkeep of 2 energy per month. And so that should be getting reduced now. I also think it might also apply to these guys right here. These mining stations might have their upkeep reduced, although that might not be working as correct as intended. I'm not entirely sure. Now, since we finished our expansion tree, since we finished a tradition tree, we get to pick an ascension perk. This is essentially like a capstone perk that we can put on top of our empire. There's a huge variety of them. A lot of them we haven't unlocked yet, but we can only ever have 8, so we want to make our choice here very carefully. Now, when I planned this game, I could go for one vision. This is plus 10 monthly unity, minus 10 amenities usage, and increasing governing ethics attraction. I could also go for mastery of nature. This is definitely one I want to get because this will allow me to increase the quality and size of my planets by plus 2 for a reasonable cost in energy and influence. However, what I really, really want is interstellar dominion. This will allow me to continue to expand. This will work with the expansion tree, giving me a 10% influence cost reduction. This will actually combine to be a 30% influence reduction. So now when I go to my guy here, normally expanding with influence will cost you 70. I can't remember, is it 90 influence or 75 influence? I can't remember, but it's usually a lot more expensive than this, but it's super, super cheap for me here. Do I have another source of cheapening here? No, I can't tell. I'm also going to go ahead and activate Veneration of Saints here. This will cost me 13 unity per month to maintain. However, I do have edict capacity here, so until I fill up my edict capacity, it won't cost me anything. And this will give me a 20% priest output, giving me even more unity, which is beautiful. So now that I have the ability to expand willy-nilly, we will begin expanding willy-nilly because we have a 30% discount to our expansion. It would be perfect if I think there's a leader you can get that makes outposts cheaper too, but we're going to begin expanding to our immediate neighbor locations, and then we can build mining stations around the planets here. There's not much in the way of energy in this system. This is a relatively low quality system in all honesty. It's still worth acquiring because it's relatively cheap for us to do, and it will provide us with energy income and stuff like that, which means that is less stress that will be put on our capital. Let's go ahead and increase the amount of consumer goods we're buying. This is an expensive thing to do, to rebalance your economy like this, but I think it's worth it. On my capital, we have one clerk working away in a job that I don't care about. I will likely ban clerks from this planet eventually. However, I want another hollow temple, and this will start to make sense in a little while, I promise you that. Now we're going to go for the discovery tree, and the reason that we're going to go for the discovery tree is because this will cover our ability to transition away from the current build that we're doing that is very heavily unity focused, and allow us to transition into a technology build, because this has researcher upkeep minus 20%, and I believe somewhere in here, yes, research subsidies also, that increases researcher output. And then also there's research alternatives +1, makes it easier for us to find the technologies that we want inside the tech tree. And then it also has plus 10% research speed. So discovery is just really, really good if you want to do anything technological. Expansion and discovery, usually you only want to get one of these, but because we're making an insane amount of unity, we can go for both, which opens up some very interesting options for us. We have found an incredibly rich system in here. There's, 6, 11, 13 minerals inside this system, and it's only just been fully surveyed. That's incredible. We also found what looks to be the remnants of a mega structure over here, although we can't quite yet tell what it is. It's a ruined mega art installation. So later on in the game, this is essentially like a huge ruin that has been left behind by former empires. So if we can acquire enough technology and enough resources, we might be able to restore that. And actually a mega art installation, I'm pretty sure it gives us even more unity. So things are going to get a little crazy in here. So it looks like we're over consuming consumer goods, which is fine. We can just go ahead and increase the amount that we're purchasing, increase the amount of alloys that we're selling, and also begin selling a little bit of minerals and selling a little bit less food. So I'm hoping that this should rebalance my economy. We need another consumer goods. We need to keep our consumer goods flat, ideally. We want to like make use of that as best as we can. Now we want to take to boldly go. This will increase our survey speed and our science ship disengage chance, which will mean they're more likely to escape if they get caught by some hostile enemy. This survey speed increase, as well as the map the stars edict that we have just captured, or just unlocked, will allow me to go ahead and take map the stars, and this will give me another 25% survey speed, which means I survey 50% faster. And the most important thing right here is anomaly discovery chance plus 10%. So basically every time a science ship scans a planet, it has a 2.5% chance of finding an anomaly. And now we have a 10% bonus to that. Now I can't tell if that's like, every time you don't discover an anomaly, the chance increases by 2.5%. So let's say I scan a planet, I have a 2.5% chance of finding an anomaly. I don't find one. The next planet I scan has a 5% chance. The next planet is 7.5. So it has a pseudo-random distribution, but you will eventually find a lot of anomalies. And I'm not sure if this makes the baseline start at 12.5% or if it modifies each roll by 10%. So let's say I'm on my fourth scan. Instead of a 10% chance, I would have an 11% chance. Regardless, what this will do is by being able to find more anomalies, we'll have more of these little anomaly projects that we can complete. And by completing these anomaly projects, these are like goody huts. They will actually increase the quality of the land. These systems will get better because I find more of them. So by combining the ability to increase the quality of the land that we find and make it cheaper to acquire that land through expansion, we've now created the foundation of an empire that should be able to rip through the galaxy extremely quickly and capture mass swaths of land. It's a kind of unusual build. I don't think it's an optimal build by any stretch of the imagination. However, it is a fun build. So now that we have that, what we need to do is to grab ourselves basically like 5 science ships. Like we're going to get 4 more science ships. Now we can start exploring. We can start assigning scientists. There's our second science ship. Let's go ahead and recruit one. Looks like we don't have good traits here, so I'm just going to recruit any old random guy and send him off in a direction of exploration along this hyperlane. Brilliant. So we have managed to unlock pop growth speed. That is a 10% increase in our population growth. Let's go ahead and start a new research. I do actually really like playing with gene clinics. Most people don't like them, but I find them quite fun, and it's quite nice because they give you amenities, which increases the happiness of your population, and population growth speed, which allows you to get more population. And it also gives oh no, they don't give society research anymore. I quite like gene clinics. Some people don't like them. I think they're fun, they're thematic, they're interesting to me. All right, let's have a look. Any new here we go. Another 10% anomaly discovery chance. So this guy's a brilliant explorer. We want to send him off to survey ideally nearby planets, because he'll have the highest chance of improving their quality. There's our 4th science ship. Let's go ahead and recruit another guy. Nothing special here, sadly, so I'll just grab any random old guy and I'll send him down any old random hyperlane to go exploring. Now, I would really like an archaeology guy. Okay, I did not get an archaeology guy, so you are going to be my archaeology guy. And I'm going to go ahead and send him over here to excavate this Get Inside archaeological site. It looks like there is some sort of surface transport network, and we're going to have to do this. I've read all of these like a million times. I'll leave them on the screen so you can pause the video for a decent amount of time. But essentially, there's like infrastructure of a technological civilization on this planet, and we're going to delve in and see if we can find anything about them. Now, this guy is good at surveying. I actually need to take one of my scientists here. Let me have a look at which one it is. I'm going to take this guy and send him to research anomalies in land that I've already discovered. And the reason that I want to do this is because it will actually provide me with higher quality. We'll talk about individual anomalies here. Like this is another anomaly. We found something worth investigating on this astonishing asteroids here. And we're finding a lot of anomalies, but our scientists are relatively low skill. These are relatively difficult. So it's going to take us a long time to research them for now. So we'll have to wait until our scientists are a higher level. But we're going to go ahead and keep building mining stations and continue expanding. We have a ton of influence. We'll eventually go to a second construction ship, but we can't quite afford that until we start to really fill this planet up. So I just rebalanced my economy to make sure the pearl divers are getting things. So our economy is going to change here, which is going to trigger some trading changes. We probably can't get away with selling that much food. I'll just sell 5 for now. And we probably can't get away with selling minerals. We probably don't need to buy as many consumer goods. So let's see if that rebalanced our economy. It did. I can probably stop selling alloys in this point. And now we finally balanced our economy. We can finally maybe sell a little bit less food. And now, even though we're giving up 15% of our alloys and 30% of our energy, we actually have a balanced economy on a single planet. Now, that will change over time as we start to increase our investment. I do like unlocking strike craft relatively early into the game. However, coil guns would be a technology upgrade for our military. We haven't encountered anybody worth going to war with yet, so I'm going to go for covert operations, get basic strike craft. I find the small strike craft can be quite helpful for defending your trade routes. Let's go ahead and grab databank uplinks. This will increase our research station output slightly. It'll increase our technology a very, very small amount over the course of the game, but it's a significant amount over the course of a long game. Anytime I see a green number here, I tend to just let whoever finds the anomaly to research it, because that's one less anomaly I have to send my guy around to actually discover. So we have found toxic biological industry on the city of Daiglon here. So we can add +4 of the engineering research. We can add +3 alloys. 3 alloys is huge, or +4 society. I'm going to take the alloys. Alloys can be quite hard to find, and they're extremely useful in a variety of situations. My fortress station is now overpopulated. That means I'm going to have to build some orders domain. This will give me an extra 3 squire jobs. More importantly, it will increase the housing capacity of this station, and the orders keep here. This has scaling jobs. Every 10 population on this planet, I will get +1 knight job, and additionally, every single squire will increase the output of our lord commanders and our knights by 2%, as well as giving us some amenities. So we'll see this planet come into its own now. In terms of Tufsin, we still haven't finished all of our jobs. I will probably be specializing this towards agriculture districts. I would like, if I'm looking at this, I'm pretty light on food and consumer goods, which is going to push me in the direction of unlocking the agriculture district, because that's going to provide me with food, consumer goods, and a little bit of trade value to also get us a little bit of energy credits. This planet has a reasonable amount of trade value, which is being converted into a reasonable amount of cash. It's not a huge amount, but it's there. It's definitely there. Looks like we found a message in a bottle over here in Dianthe, which is a type of archaeological site. That's kind of exciting. We're finding really, really cool things, which is partially down to the fact that we have a high anomaly discovery chance, which is what we want. We're surveying the world. We're discovering all these resources. So it's probably time to explain the resources. Energy, that's money. Minerals, that's production, essentially. Minerals is an input resource for consumer goods, which is an upkeep resource for your population. It's also an input resource for alloys, which is upkeep for military and expansion. Food is an upkeep resource for your population. There are certain builds that can use food to turn into alloys and stuff like that. And influence is used generally for expansion and politics. So that is all the resources, and you're usually only going to find a lot of minerals and energy out in the world. You will rarely find much of else. Excellent. So we found the Life Electric event in Nitris, it looks like. Or no, it was in Dianthe actually over here. So this will add an extra +3 society to this planet, society research, and it'll also level up my scientist by +1. So now he's level 3, which means he's more efficient at exploring and doing all the things that he needs to do. Okay, we found another archaeological site. It looks like we found Nobody Hone. We're going to get 3 minor artifacts. These are archaeological resources. We can come up here to the tradition screen and come over here to relics, and we can actually sell relics to private collectors for 500 gold. We can also celebrate diversity. A lot of stuff we can do with these. We can also do planetary decisions. If we come over to Tufsin here, we can spend these to get +20% priest output. I'm going to do that, of course, and I still have 1 left over, and I'm going to sell that to private collectors just so I have a bit of cash in the bank. There's no point in letting those relics sit in your inventory, burning a hole in your pocket. And we're actually very close to getting the first event on the quest for the Toxic God. So you found deep within a crevice of an asteroid here. We found a drill rampage, or we can just gain a bunch of minerals. I'm going to go for the early game outcomes here. Lots of early minerals, lots of early resources. That'll allow me to play a little aggressively. We did find a continental world. That's huge if we can make use of that. We found an alpine world. That's less useful. Let's make sure that we build some mining stations in here. This is a huge amount of minerals and energy. This is really going to kickstart our economy. We're currently 12 years into the game, and we have made, I would say, reasonable progress. I think we're going to go ahead and get ourselves now a second construction ship, because this construction ship is going to be relatively heavily taxed in terms of its work time. And we did discover some alien murals that we can go ahead and translate. I think they were over here. Where are those alien murals? We found an alien mural here. This should, in theory, give us some society resources in Nitris. And I'm going to start expanding towards this continental world, because this is a potentially habitable world that we can make a colony onto. We also have another tradition. We'll go ahead and get a science division. This will increase our research alternatives, which I will explain briefly. Essentially, every time you finish a technology, you will draw a number of technologies from your technology deck. It's kind of like a hidden deck that you can't see. You don't know what's in it. And you will draw those cards and then choose from those 3 choices. This Civic will allow me to draw one extra card, meaning I have a better chance of researching what I want to research. I have a better chance of actually getting the technology that I want. So the habitability on Cam 2 is only 60%, but 60% is actually pretty decent considering it can be a lot lower than that. Let's go ahead and start buying more consumer goods. We just need a smidge to keep ourselves afloat, and I'll sell a comparatively similar amount of alloys because we have a ton of alloys in the bank and we can rebalance our economy. So we have managed to translate the alien mural, which is going to get that scientist a little bit of experience and get us a little bit of engineering research. That's totally great. And we found some precursors, which is going to make things really interesting. That will be 3 alloys, and it'll also start a new event chain, the Erasians. Now, the Erasians are a type of precursor that you can discover in a game of Stellaris. If we find 6 of their relics, we will unlock their precursor bonus and we'll be able to actually do some projects and essentially assimilate some remnant of their ancient empire into ours. We'll be able to discover something about them. There's many different kind of precursors and each of them have their own events and bonuses. So it's kind of exciting and fun. Let's go ahead and continue to research anomalies. Ideally inside our borders. We want to get the anomalies that are inside our borders first because that will increase the quality of our lands. We just researched capacity subsidies, which means we now have access to energy grids. I'll talk about those buildings a little bit later. I think I'm going to take the 5% research speed. Research speed just pays dividends over the course of a game. And I think we're going to come down here to Ibica. No, we'll capture Caesar. We're missing a miner and we're missing a pearl diver, so we're allowing this planet to continue to grow. It's growing at a 5 per month and it requires 100 growth, so I think it grows once every 20 to 21 months, which is a really, really fast growth rate. We're still getting benefits from incubators. Now, one thing I definitely want to do on my capital, now that we've stored up a little bit of resources, is we want to come in here to the features. You can see here in the district section, there's many of these red markers. These are essentially district slots that are blocked by features. Now, some of these features come from the fact that the toxic god, 100 however many years ago, polluted this planet and envenomed the seas, it created a wasteland, and this will decrease the quality of this planet. But of course, the benefit we got was this station here, this incredibly powerful station that has really, really good jobs on it. But what we can do in here is to unlock these sprawling slums. This will give us +1 population. We can clear these industrial wastelands. This will give us even more districts. So by doing these 3 projects, we'll actually clear out and make room for more districts. So we'll be able to expand and make use of this planet a little bit better. And brilliant, we found some swirling shadows here that will increase the quality of that planet. We get 4 society research, and we got our very first quest for the toxic god. The tale of Knight Graceless Doxy, who has been banished. Knight Graceless Doxy, thy reckless behaviour almost brought death upon 5 of your fellow knights. Thou art pure of heart, and thy goals art noble, but transgressions against the order cannot be overlooked. The knight commander was stern and severe. Around him, all the knights were present, either in flesh or via holocoms. They stood silently as the commander spoke. By my powers I strip thee of knighthood and banish thee from the order. May fate have mercy upon thee. Graceless Doxy bowed, deposited the insignia of the order on the hangar's floor, and then turned without a word and climbed aboard a small ship. Later chronicles would report that banished knight Graceless Doxy knew the sentence to be fair, but it did little to ease their grief. When one's whole life had been in service of the order, to be cut from it is like losing a limb. As she had done so many times before, Graceless Doxy flew out of the keep's hangar and into the great beyond. This time, there would be no return. So that's the first part of the event. We should get a second event. Here it is. The Tale of Knight Graceless Doxy, the Nebula. In banishment, Graceless Doxy was left adrift. Stories tell of an aimless errance upon the stars. Until, at last, a message came from her squire. Master, I hope fate treats thee well. I have sorted through data from thy last quest, as thou commanded. Thou shalt find coordinates attached to this message. I know not if thou shalt find it this useful now. Prithee, be careful. Thou art most righteous master, and I hope to see you again. Moved by these words, Graceless Doxy was spurred into action. If she could return to the order with something of value, her order might yet be restored. The coordinates led her deep into the nebula. Nested in the ambient mists was a lone station, a fortified structure that seemed to be pulled out of a dream. Graceless Doxy stepped into a derelict interior haunted by the bones of a long-dead life form and protected by the phalanx of sentry droids. Hot-headed and impatient, she rushed to meet the Metal Guardians. 3 times she charged, and 3 times she was driven back. The droids' motion sensors proved unerring, but strength is not the only weapon of a knight, and though Graceless Doxy often overlooked cunning and patience, this time a plan began to form in her mind. Interesting. So, the Tale of Knight Graceless Doxy statues. Alone in a long abandoned station, beset by sentry droids, Graceless Doxy devised a plan. Knowing if she could somehow avoid the detection of the droids' motion sensors, eventually they would need to recharge. The machines were formidable, but not cunning. Patience, not strength, would be the way to victory this day. Slowly, with long stops and fitful starts, graceless Doxy progressed through the station. At last she reached the charging stations. With careful deliberation, graceless Doxy severed the power cables. In the same moment, she became aware of the towering droid in the entryway. Detection would mean the rest of the phalanx would join the fight, and in such a confined space, death was certain. Graceless Doxy stood by the door, motionless as the machine placed itself on a charging station, the red eye of its detectors glowing menacingly. It would eventually run out of power, but that would take time. One by one, the other droids returned to their stations. The chronicles tell that graceless Doxy stood immobile for 7 days and 7 nights until that last droid had deactivated. With the station's droids reduced to lifeless statues, Doxy was free to pursue the object of her quest, the location of an ancient ship that once crossed the path of the Toxic God. Very, very cool. Very, very cool little event. So I'm wondering what the finisher of this will be now. There we go. The Fae. The information led graceless Doxy to an asteroid field. Anchored to one of the largest rocks was the Damsel, an ancient corvette. Next to it, another of the Order's ships betrayed the presence of a knight. Worryingly, its distress beacon was active. Doxy entered cautiously, stepping into the theater of a brutal fight. Weapon impacts, both ancient and recent, littered the walls. The fragments of robots were strewn around. A little further in, the lifeless remains of a knight of the Order, and the trail of a wounded blurgling beckoned graceless. Deep within, the banished knight found the body in stasis. The squire's body. Monitors showed that a neon lunkhead was wounded, but stable. However, when graceless Doxy approached, the ship's security systems weren't online. A chilling voice echoed. "Step back, marauder. Thou art not welcome aboard." And we have made contact with a being called Sinople. Let me get a look at thee. Indeed, please accept my apologies for the confusion. I am known as Sinople. I am the sentient AI of this ship. How did my fellow knight die? Knight, sayest thou, were thou related? If so, accept my condolences and another apology. I thought the intruder to be a marauder. When I asked that they leave the ship, they became highly aggressive. Several of my maintenance droids were destroyed, trying to stop them. And my squire? What art thou doing to her? Thy squire made me realize the mistake I'd made. She had been wounded in the fight and lost consciousness soon after. I placed her in this medical stasis so that she may heal. Ever since my crew was abducted by marauders, I have been very lonely here. I hope to enjoy thy squire's company for a moment after she healed. What did the marauders do? I was hacked and taken offline when they approached, but once I overcame the hex cast upon me, the security footage showed them capturing my crew after a fierce fight. They have probably taken them into slavery. My databanks indicate that marauders often do that. All this was long ago. It took ages to repair myself after the hack. Many parts of my memory banks are still locked, even to me, because of it. But tell me, if thou art a knight, what is thy quest? We are looking for the Toxic God. That is our quest. I have multiple records of encounters with the toxic spacefaring entities. Unfortunately, most of my memories are locked. I can access the index of the records, but not the information itself. If I help thee, I want thee to take me off this ship. I long for contact with other sentient beings. Wouldst thou bring me to thy lord? So I would say I will bring the AI to my lord. That seems reasonable. As they have a homecoming here, the return of the Order's keep was momentum. There within the Great Hall, Sinople revealed that they had contact with an entity very similar to the Toxic God sought by the Order. However, much of the AI's memory was encrypted and it would require a lot of work before the Order could access it. As for Doxy, she not only put her life on the line by coming back, but also managed to bring back a tangible clue and save the Squire, Neon Lunkhead. For this, Lord Commander took the decision to lift the banishment and dubbed Graceless Doxy a knight again. So now this is where we get to make a decision. We can choose that Lord Commanders and Knights will produce an additional 3 Unity, or we could choose that they will produce additional research. Now, I'm getting the majority of my Unity from my planets, right, in the form of temples. Right now, my Knights are producing a reasonable amount of Unity. If I come in here and I take a look at these Knights, they're producing at a baseline what looks like 3.64 Unity and a little bit of research. However, what I want them to produce is research. I want to be research specializing this station to produce a lot of tech for me, because the amount of tech that just went up was significant, because I'm getting almost all of my Unity from my capital planet here. So I don't need this station to produce Unity. I needed to make tech for me. And it looks like we have made contact with an unknown entity, some enigmatic spacefarers. If we come over here to this system here, we have discovered something. It looks like some people living on a station here. How odd. So we made contact with an unknown entity, and looks like there's actually some kind of swirly thing here too. Very cool. So let's go ahead and begin making contact. We'll use one of our envoys to begin contacting with them, and they'll essentially roll the dice to have a chance to make a breakthrough to start contact with them. This looks like some kind of like endgame threat right here. And then, God, I have no idea what this is about. Looks like some kind of station they have there. We'll have to see what they're up to. But yeah, let's go ahead and build some star bases, get back to construction. I kind of took a little break from that to do all of that story, but I think that's the main part of this playthrough is this quest for the Toxic God here. I'm going to image these monoliths for my archives. I'm going to get Polytechnic Education, which will increase my leaders leveling up. There are leaders in Stellaris, including your scientists. There's also governors. For example, this guy is governing my planet, and as I build buildings and he just sits there and oversees the planets, he will actually level up. And so now he will level up 25% faster because I have Polytechnic Education. We found an ancient graveyard. We also found some more anomalies to research. Let's build some mining stations right here and here. We have a science ship that's not busy. Let's go ahead and continue to research anomalies. Let's have a look here. So we can study it from the surface, or we can take a rock brain. I'm going to go ahead and try to extract the rock brain. Ooh, okay. So what's called the ISS is with such large chunks of conductive materials. Okay. So it basically exploded. However, Aimless Trenchcoat, the guy who exploded, who was that? Was that this guy? This guy right here, he will gain the Carefree trait, which will give him extra anomaly research speed. That's quite helpful. We have a new stuff here. All right, more events, survey speed, perfect. We've also got another level to this Get Inside Archaeological Dig Site, another 5 minor artifacts. That's beautiful. So we've managed to discover some of the signals from these guys. We haven't yet managed to make contact, but we're making progress in the attempt. We found some primordial soup. Lovely. And I think now you've got an idea of how anomalies work, right? You find these little events, they give you little micro stories, and then they improve the quality of the land. So I'm going to stop talking about them quite as much because, okay, so we found a bunker bot. I guess I'm going to take a huge chunk of free Unity for sure, because that will mean I can finally finish off Discovery, take the upkeep reduction and the 10% extra science, and then finally another Ascension perk. So now part of me wants to maybe go for Technological Ascendancy for the extra 10% research speed and the ability to have a better chance of finding more rare technologies. But if I'm going to go for Planetary Quality, there's honestly a few choices here that would make sense. Mastery of Nature will make it cheaper for me to get rid of blockers, and it'll also give me the ability to increase the quality of my planets. I'm going to take Mastery of Nature. I really like that one. And in a world where there's not many planets, being able to upgrade the quality of your planets by taking the Mastery of Nature here, it is quite expensive in terms of stuff. Let me go ahead and sell a chunk of food and then come into my planet here. Okay, we're working clerk jobs, which is not ideal. We definitely don't want to work clerk jobs. They're not very good. And just for the reason why, clerks just provide trade value and amenities, and that's probably one of the 2 weakest resources that I could be getting right now. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in Mastery of Nature to increase the size of this planet and the quality of this planet, which will proportionally increase the population of this planet, because planets population grows faster on big open planets with lots of room. So if I take a look at my economy and what I'm missing up here, it's still consumer goods. So I think I might take an industrial district now. This will allow me to convert a small amount of my minerals into consumer goods and into alloys. And then I think I might also build an extra city district, which will unlock another building slot for me to be able to maybe build something like an entertainment hall or perhaps even gene clinics. So we'll see about that. We did just unlock basic strikecraft, which is another technology. Let's go ahead and grab mining station output. We have a lot of mining stations and we'll be able to get a lot of value from that. And I'm also going to come in here to this station right here, and I'm going to get rid of crew quarters, and instead I'm going to build hydroponics bay. This is cheaper unit upkeep, but I would much rather have the extra food. I kind of meant to do this earlier, but I kind of forgot to do it. Right, so we did just unlock gene clinics. Let's go ahead and I suppose taking Off-World Trading Company wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I think I would like to unlock Planetary Unification. This will unlock more edicts for me and also give me a little bit of Unity and a bonus to my Unity production, which kind of fits with my build a lot right now. Research Station output. It's not much, but it's a nice little boost considering I am looking to expand a lot and I will be controlling a lot of different resources. We have found our very first primitive civilization on Iramus. This is the Tiyal civilization on this planet. They are in the industrial age. They have primitive farms, primitive factories, all that sort of stuff. And here these are these guys right here. The Tiyals. They are xenophiles. They are continental. So they are compatible with us in theory. And we have a choice of how we want to deal with them. We can invade their world and assimilate them. We could enslave them. We could do a variety of things. I think maybe enslaving them could be interesting. We can also purge them. Let me have a look at my policies and see what we have available. So we have unrestricted native interference. We can do that. In terms of purging, we're only allowed to displace. So we could displace them from our lands, or we could enslave them. I'm thinking I might do a little bit of enslaving of these people. We are on a quest to find our toxic god. That sometimes requires us to make decisions that will hurt some of the people around here. Now, they have what looks to be some very, very weak industrial armies. So I should be able to defeat them by recruiting maybe 3 assault armies, and then I'll assign a general to them as well. See here, army upkeep. I'll take the army upkeep. Having cheaper armies seems quite useful. Now we can open up our first contact with the Shroud Walkers. Let's see if they want to talk. So these are Elder Kosha Caddington, and they are going to talk to us about our fate. I think these are new faction, minor faction that has been added to Stellaris that you can meet. And essentially these guys should tell us a little bit about the Shroud. The Shroud is a psionic being, I think, that you can communicate with. I can recruit leaders from them. Ooh, let's see. So if I had enough energy, I would get a 10% unity boost and 5% amenities. I think this is worth doing. We need at least 30 opinion with them to ask about the Shroud Beacon. So we need to do this 3 times. Let's see, can I get a little bit of cash here? What if I sold some minerals? Yes, okay. Shroud Walker Teacher, boom. And now I should be able to come over to Tufson and settle a Shroud Walker Teacher on this planet, which will give me a 10% boost to my unity production. That's huge. Are we getting that benefit? I can't quite tell. Let me have a look here. Oh, we found a mountain that's actually an egg. Let's crack that egg open. Sometimes you gotta break an egg. It's a bit odd though, finding a mountain range that's an egg. Be a little bit concerning. So we now actually have access to this planet here, and I'm going to go ahead and colonize it with our blurglings. It's quite expensive to colonize. It costs you a decent amount of food, a decent amount of consumer goods, and a decent amount of alloys. But the important thing is every planet that you own is somewhere that population can grow, which will increase your ability to make resources. Because almost all of your resources come from how many population point or how many pops you have. So increasing your pops is like one of your #1 priorities in Stellaris. And so our early game build is mostly complete. We have expansion, we have discovery, and now we're going to continue to just kind of expand out into the stars and eat up as much territory as possible. Now we might want to look into either increasing our military capabilities, for example, through supremacy, or even just maybe go for another economic policy. For example, we could go for adaptability here. This would increase our habitability by 10%. It would also give us an extra free building slot on every planet. That's one less city district that we have to build. This would increase our food output. It would reduce our orbital bombardment. It would increase our orbital bombardment defense ability. We could also unlock planetary prospecting, so we can prospect our planets. I think that one's not so good. We could also go for domination here. And domination is quite good because it'll give us a 33% reduction in clear blocker costs. And we already have a 33% reduction in clear blocker costs from Mastery of Nature. But this here will also give us extra influence, extra housing from our capitals, enforcers, extended shifts would increase our worker output. It all really depends on how we want to go. Like, do we want to be diplomatic? We can go for diplomacy, which will allow us to form federations. Federations can be quite good. I think I'm going to go for unyielding here, and it's for a very particular reason. This here, resistance is frugal. This gives defense armies 0.5 unity, and if we come over here to no malice intended, every single one of these knights is providing us with defense armies. You can see here, let me see if I can show you that. The simplest way is to scroll through this list. Look at the amount of garrisons we have. It's an insane amount. This will just further boost our unity, and also unyielding has a lot of really good defensive bonuses for actually like holding land. Now granted, defense is generally weaker than offense, but still. I think what we're going to do on no malice intended is, in order to maximize the growth on this planet, we're going to fully build the order domain. This will maximize the amount of housing and jobs on this planet, which should allow us to attract people through migration, especially if our capital ever runs out of jobs, right? So we are still working clerks on our capital, which is not good, but we're still in the process of like upgrading and building things. So we'll have to wait there for a moment. Looks like we found a group of really large a pair of really big planets here. The 2 tomb worlds over in Breek. There's also some sort of gas giant structure here. This might hold clues as to why these are tomb worlds that have been ruined. Kind of interesting. There might be events related to those. Oh yeah, Ruinous Core appears to be some sort of spacefaring society whose now are irradiated scrap heaps and inhospitable tomb worlds. Some sort of unknown external threat was the cause of that civilization's downfall. That's kind of the thing I really like about Stellaris, is that it's just a mishmash of basically every sci-fi trope that's ever existed, which is really, really fun. Let's go ahead and unlock food processing. This will give me access to farming subsidies, as well as it doesn't give me nutritional plenitude, but it gives me the food processing facility, which is a building that I can build once on a planet, which will increase the output of food from my anglers, which are my farmers, by +1, which just makes that a more efficient job. We have also found another alien, although I didn't get a chance to actually spot who they were, but we're going to go start investigating this. We want to find other civilizations nice and early, and by finding other civilizations nice and early, we can plan out how we're going to expand and control space so that we don't have to occupy similar territory to them. What we really want to be doing is making sure that we capture choke points in the hyperlane network. For example, if this is a choke point, this is a choke point. These two are not choke points. By holding choke points, we can build defensive fortresses there, space fortresses, that will keep the enemies out. Looks like we have found some sort of hostile fleet here. What is this? I can't quite tell. Looks like some ball of energy around this black hole, which might be a little bit spooky. We'll have to figure out what they're about. It could be a crystalline entity or some sort of warp being or something. You honestly never know what's out there in space. So taking a look at our engineering technology options, I would like extra minerals from my miners. This make the more efficient my economy is at a baseline level, right, at the input level, the more efficient I can make my economy at the output level. So the thing that I turn into minerals is more efficient. Let's take resistance is frugal. This should result in a decent boost to our unity. Let's see. Yep, about, what was that, 27 unity, which is not bad whatsoever. Or was it 17 unity? One of the two. But defense armies now have more health, which means they're harder to kill. So we're going to be hard to invade. Which is kind of the plan. We're like a luxurious defensive order of a toxic god. Hopefully Blurgle. That's who I'm hoping we find. I'm hoping that we find Blurgle, which is the copyright copyright infringeless name of the toxic god in this universe. Now, I purposely designed this universe to be relatively sparse in terms of population so that you have, or like in terms of populated empires, so you have a little bit of room. Ooh, not good. We're already in combat with space amoebas. Did he manage to escape? He did. Okay, brilliant. He managed to escape. That's that disengagement chance working in our favor there. I need to get some of these archaeological dig sites explored. There's quite a lot of them that I have yet to get to. So let's grab our transport fleet. We'll go ahead and assign the general to them. And we will get them in orbit of Iriamus 2 so we can land and colonize this forcibly. Potentially enslaving these guys is the plan. It's not the nicest plan. Let's go ahead and turn off clerk jobs in this planet. I really don't want clerk jobs. I would much rather literally anything but clerk jobs. Let's go ahead and build some gene clinics. This will provide us with another 10% growth, which means we fill up the planet more, which means we have more population, which means we have more yields. Gene clinics do take a long time to pay off, but I think they're okay. They're not the most amazing thing in the universe. I will fully and readily admit that, but I think they're fine. There's farming subsidies, so now we can increase our farm output. And I think now that we're settling a new planet, we're going to get these tile blockers. And we want to be able to clear these out relatively early because that will increase the potential of this planet. And by increasing the quality and potential of that planet, it should grow faster and have more potential. I think now at this point, I'm going to start putting my scientists on Auto Explorer, at least 2 or 3 of them. We have found the Kel-Brid Continuum. These are a fallen empire. They are ancient caretakers, an ancient robotic race that once ruled the galaxy, but has now retreated to a former shell of themselves, a small little empire over here. And they're in an interesting position on the galactic rings. This is the galaxy, by the way. Also, there's some sort of event over here that I don't fully understand. This looks like it might be to do with the shroud. But the Kel-Brid Continuum over here, they will not interfere with me. I can declare war on them. Don't do that. That's not a good idea. I can't do espionage on them. They are way too advanced for me to even begin to do anything. Like, if I were to offer them, like, hey, would you guys like to give me, like, an energy credit? And I'll give you, like, a bunch of energy credits? They don't care. They don't care. They just absolutely do not care. They have no interest in any diplomacy, although they actually kind of want food, oddly enough. Food is the one thing they want, and I think that's because they are a robotic empire and they don't have any food. But generally speaking, they have an abundance of every resource that they need, and they super do not care for diplomacy. And only if we do things that anger them. Now, they're ancient caretakers, and I'm not sure which will upset them. So I have to be careful. Depending on actions that I take, they will become more or less angry with them. I can appease them, or I can do things that will piss them off. And, generally speaking, it's probably a good idea to avoid pissing them off. Let's build a couple of agriculture districts on this new planet. We'll get 3 of them growing. That'll give this planet a bunch of new jobs and housing, and we'll hopefully pull people in. And while agriculture districts aren't like the most efficient job ever, they're good for setting up a planet for success. Especially because my civilization thrives on having a lot of food. Ooh, this guy actually has the expertise psionics, so he might be good to take off of this ship and to put him into society research, because that could increase the chance that we get early psionic tech, which is exactly what I'm going to do. You are going to be in command of my science, and then I'll assign the old leader to this ship and just put him on Auto Explore. So I currently have 2 science ships on Auto Explore, which is good news. And we've almost reached phase 2 of the quest for the Toxic God. We're receiving a transmission from the Krithakan Confederation, the very first civilization that we have found. They're hegemonic imperialists, they're a representative democracy, and they seem to be some kind of weird alien bugs. They are fanatic egalitarians and xenophobes, and I'm going to treat xenophobes with the way that they deserve to be treated, with caution. and they have already expanded into this territory. So in terms of choke points, man, I really want Rimok. This might be cause for early war. I might have to ramp up my military production, which I think I am going to do. I'm going to replace a temple with an alloy foundry, and I'm going to build another industrial district to increase my ally production. And we're going to try to claim as many of these nearby star systems. I'm going to try to build a fortress in Thoravia, and we're going to maybe look to go to war, even just to claim these 5 systems to have a really good choke point with their empire. Kind of depends on how good they are. Do I have a free spy? I do. Let's go ahead and put a spy inside their empire so we can start to develop an understanding of their current abilities. It looks like their homeworld type is tomb worlds, and they only seem to have 1 planet when I have 2. Looks like we found even more primitive civilizations knocking around in the world. That's good. Let's take defensive zeal here. This will give starbases and defense platforms a 33% damage increase. We have completed the habitable world survey, giving us a bunch of society, research, and energy credits. Things are looking fantastic for us here. We are going to now look to design some ships. Let's go ahead and turn off auto-generate ship designs. We will clear this ship. We will be making an interceptor. I quite like interceptors. We will go with a pair of red lasers and a mass driver. And we will conversely do a pair of shields, a nano-composite armor. And I don't think I have any more modules I could upgrade. I could put a reactor booster in here. But this is the type of ship that we will going for. Let's go ahead and upgrade this fleet. We'll come into our fleet manager here and we'll set this to maximum. And in the near future, we will refill this. We should also look to build a shipyard, I think. And I think I like the idea of having a shipyard around Cam 3. However, I would like to wait until I have Fortress Doctrine here, which will increase or decrease the cost to upgrade starbases. So I think I would rather wait for that before I build, before I upgrade that starbase. And I think it's finally time that we invaded this planet and enslaved these guys. So let's go ahead and land our armies. These guys will not be big fans that we're doing this, but they don't really have a say in it because our armies are strong enough to completely obliterate their pre-industrial armies. Although it looks like one of my armies was actually defeated. It looks like they focused fire on him. Perfect. So now we have conquered this planet. Now they will get stellar culture shock, which is going to give them a massive debuff to their resources from jobs, because imagine these are like a pre-industrial society that just got conquered, and now they're enslaved by some massive slaving empire. So they're going to have a bit of trouble. So we're going to have to do some things to manage this planet. First of all, stability is 0 on here. So we need to resettle some population here to act as the ruling class. So we need a high priest and a politician, an enforcer to keep the population in line. Now let's take a look at the planet. Stability is still really bad. Let's go ahead and declare martial law. Boom. Martial law has been declared, which will massively lower resources from jobs and growth speed, but it will give us some ability to get soldier jobs. Right, so this is a continental world. They're enslaved. Now, what kind of slavery have we inflicted upon these guys? They're just indentured servants. So they're not the worst kind of slavery. Like, we can literally turn them into chattel slaves. I'm pretty sure you can also eat them. Like, that's an option. You can just turn them into livestock where you eat them. So if we take a look at indentured servitude, they can be employed in worker or specialist jobs, but they retain more political power than other slaves. Slavery based on production bonuses. Their living standards should be stratified economy. They must be battle thralls. So let me have a look here. I could set them to be battle thralls. Domestic servitude, happiness. I think we're just going to have them as indentured servants for now. We need to figure out how to bring stability to this planet. So where is the stability coming from? 11% population approval rating is -38. So that's rough. These guys do have a little bit of political power because they're not the lowest rank of slave. They still have rights inside our empire. We need to sort out amenities, which I think the very first thing we can do is to get ourselves a gene clinic. We also need to get these guys employed. So we'll have to figure that out. We also need to clear out some of these blockers, but that's not going to be important right now. Let me think about what I'm going to do here. This actually looks like it could be a really good planet to produce energy from. It has up to 8 energy districts on it. So I think I'm going to get a couple of generator districts. I will grab myself an energy grid, and then that's all of my minerals that I've spent. I'll sell 1,000 food, buy 500 minerals, and then just on a temporary basis, just to keep the population in line and happy, I'm going to go ahead and build a commercial zone because that's worth 3 jobs, more importantly 6 amenities, which will help with the amenity problem. So over time, this should stabilize. Okay, so the jobs have redistributed. We have some soldiers. We have a blurgling acting as a soldier, which is giving us a little bit of stability. We're under martial law. The people are really unhappy. Crime is high and stability is low, but it's better than it was. So I just need to give these guys jobs and they'll become a little bit less happy. Technologically, I think it would be good to get terraforming now. Being able to terraform planets would be really, really useful, although a bit of a problem. I'm eating a lot of food. Big problem. So it turns out assimilating an empire is quite difficult. Let's go ahead and sell. I think you can sell 13 alloys without issues. Okay, stabilizing. I could resettle some of those slaves. No, they have stellar culture shock. You can't resettle people with the stellar culture shock. It would probably be too cruel to like whip them off their planet and just put them on a different one. Yeah, so we've taken over another planet. We've enslaved another alien species. Yes, we are the bad guys. It's totally fine to be the bad guys in Stellaris. We have a quest. We are trying to find the toxic god. And that is far more important than the rights of an alien species, sadly. God, honestly, the things you say when you play this game could probably get you... I feel like every Paradox game has you committing some sort of crime against rights. Like every single one. So you've actually managed to study the space amoebas, which is giving us a little bit of influence, which is quite nice. Ooh, let's have a look here. So Cam Prime, which I believe is the planet that we settled here, we have found a mysterious labyrinth. So we can send a science team to explore, or we can monitor it from afar. The magnificent labyrinth of exotic, trans-dimensional anomalies. Let's go ahead and explore it. Explore the interior. Let's find out what's going on down there. So I think it's time to start reinforcing our fleets and looking to expand our ability to wage war. I accidentally clicked through the first step in the next event for the Toxic God. That was a total accident, but we should start seeing it now. So, Milvania's cluster is exploring. Rimward, Milvania's cluster. Little is known about the place. Okay, it said the cluster is barren, bereft of life. Good fortune upon thee, does now shall find. Okay, we're going to Milvanus to explore. Mostly and pitiful. Pitiful incarnate. Milvani found that it was indeed empty, and for the first time he felt despair. This had been a most promising lead, but now it seemed all of it had been for naught. Then, as if emerging from a dream, sensors revealed a planet shrouded in darkness, its orbit entwined in the space betwixt the stars. Bestowing upon it the name Shadowed Princess, he laid a course for it. The answers await. The finding. Arriving at Shadowed Princess, he found clear signs of the toxic god, substances alike those left behind on Tufson after the entity's passing. However, elation quickly turned to sorrow, and pitiful incarnate wept as he located the corroded Blurgellian skeleton nearby the craft, all that remained of mostly harmless Doctor. The long sojourn into the darkness of space had caused the god's poison to react unexpectedly, concentrating such a degree that it could only be handled with extreme caution. It was clear to Pitiful Incarnate that the toxic god frequented Milvana's cluster several centuries before it visited Tufson. With no further clues as to the god's current location, Pitiful Incarnate returned home. Samples of the deity's toxins retrieved by Pitiful Incarnate greatly advanced the Order's knowledge of the entity's properties. For this, he was feted, and forever since, songs have been sung about his travels. Now, I have a few options here. I can take more Unity on my Knights and Lord Commanders. I can take more Science, which is the one I'm going to choose, or I could take a Science bonus on my capital planet. Now, this is really interesting because I could now that I have made all of the Unity, that I've done my early game build, I could, in theory, come to my planet and switch all of these temples over to science districts, and this would get me an extra 10% science from all those and allow me to tech really, really hard and sort of transition out of early Unity into technology, and then I can pick up Unity later. Alternatively, I could just go for yet more production from these Knights and Knights Commanders, and they are carrying me pretty hard. An extra +2 base would get multiplied by a variety of bonuses. But I think I like the idea of doing a transition out. Plus, this one will give me a 10% ship weapons damage modifier for my ships across my empire, which could come in really handy for any future wars that we decide to get into. So let's go ahead and execute our plans. We're going to come in here and we're going to replace our temples with research labs. We have realized the error of our ways, and we need to now start teching our way out of our problems. So we have continued perplexity. We've started to delve into the labyrinth, and we've reached phase 2. Let's see, it says enter at your own risk, danger of death, and finally warning. If you do, the planet will explode. Sure, let's continue to explore. That's fine. We'll explore it. We'll find out what's going on in there. I'm probably going to regret that. I would probably prefer to destroy it. Since we are religious, we probably don't want to make robots. We're probably going to be turning enemy populations into robots by enslaving them. So instead, we're going to go ahead and learn about mineral purification and how to upgrade our mineral income. Our mineral income is actually really, really strong. We've also discovered some exotic gases. Everything is going along great. I'm just claiming a bunch of land on the border with these guys so we can eventually go to war with them. So let's see here. Contrary to its warnings, the labyrinth's disappear did not destroy Cam's Prime, but it certainly left its mark. Earthquakes ravaged the land. So this will add an active volcano, city ruins, deep sinkhole, a space-time anomaly, and a space-time anomaly researcher job, and it concludes the mysterious labyrinth. So while it did damage the planet, we have ended up with an interesting job here, which will produce 8 science, 4 engineering science, and then 1 dark matter, I think that is. So that's quite powerful. Let's take a look at Iriamus. We're still building commercial zones. We've still got some unemployed people, but I think we can end martial law soon. I think if we're going to end martial law, we'll want to either build strongholds or, yeah, I think we might build a stronghold or two on this planet. Just in case they try to rebel, I'll have a military presence on this planet to fight them off. Ooh, we found another thing here. They're initiating resource transfer, so they're going to give us some resources. So these guys don't seem like they're really chill, friendly, ancient empires. Like, hey, these guys are struggling, have a bit of resources. And I'm going to totally take them. Free resources are totally within my purview. Ooh. So we can gain minerals or we can get influence. I think I would rather get influence and not piss off these guys yet. I want to avoid pissing them off too early. There we go. There's Fortress Doctrine. We can now start to upgrade our star bases relatively cheaply, and I'm going to immediately upgrade the Cam starbase. This is going to be a shipyard. And Thoravia is going to be an early fortress. It's on a really nice choke point. If they want to attack me, they have to come through Thoravia. So if I put a fortress here, it'll be very, very well defended. So they will owe me a favor now, which will hopefully make them less likely to declare war on me. They are overwhelmingly powerful compared to me in terms of ship power, but I am slowly building up my fleet. I'll need to assign a leader to this. Unyielding lowers combat disengagement chance. I really like having combat disengagement chance because it means you can actually escape. Basically, in combat, ships have a chance when they get to a certain health to try to disengage, and lowering your combat disengagement chance is not a good thing because it means your ships will fight to the death. Some new technology. I think it's time we started increasing our combat capability, so fusion reactors, and then also generally unlocking these things. The science transition is under full swing. My capital is now producing a ton of science, up to 200 science in total per turn, or per tick. Every month has a tick. We have our star hold here. This planet tree fortress right here is going to be where we hold. And now it's an open question as to what the best fortress worlds are. I know it's important to understand the role of this station. We're going to be building our army in a way that does not require enemies to have point defense, but we're going to be building our defense stations in a way that does require our enemy to have point defense. So either they're going to have to build their fleets in a way that's strong against our stations or in a way that's strong against our fleets. So we're going to be using a lot of hangar bays and hydroponics bays too, because extra food is just an economy bonus. We're also going to start 2 shipyards over here and also a hydroponics bay. And then in our capital system, we're going to rework it because this is going to be our capital trading system. And we're going to get trade hubs. Basically, every level of trade hub in your capital extends the range at which it can extract trade resources. Looks like we are going to have to deal with a little bit of piracy. So we'll have to set up a patrol fleet here. Hang on. What's the patrol button? Yeah, we're going to set up a patrol. And can I change your destination? Okay, yeah. So we'll set up a patrol fleet to move between these two systems, which should hopefully take care of that piracy that's starting to appear on our trade routes. Essentially, every starbase that you create will hoover up the local trade resources and send them off to your capital trading location. We have found the Mandasura Empire. They are phonetic authoritarian xenophiles. These guys seem a little bit friendlier, so we'll be a little bit friendly with them. And they have appeared over here. Now, my hope is, how do they feel about these guys? If they don't like the Krithakan Confederation, maybe it would be good if we made friends with them. So let's talk to them. I could guarantee their independence. Oh yeah, by the way, we never set our stance, did we? I forget how to do that. There's a stance. Diplomatic stance. So currently we're on expansionist, which is giving us a 10% cost reduction to our outpost speed, but it increases our border friction. Naval capacity could be handy, but I'm going to stay on expansionist because I don't care about border friction, because I just want to expand. Let's take a look at this planet now. It looks like it's stable enough for me to take away martial law. So let's end martial law on this planet and see how it goes down. So stability has dropped. Yeah, so now they're starting to lay claim to my systems. So what have they claimed? They have claimed the Impal Tov system, which is this system right here. So it's likely they're going to come and fight for it, which is fine. If they want to come fight me, they're welcome to it. I'm setting up for combat. Ooh, looks like we found some hostile aliens over here that jumped inside and attacked our scientist ship. Very, very unfortunate for them, because we're going to make vengeance pacts and get revenge for what they have done to our poor scientists. He was a good scientist too. He had worked for a long time for this empire. So the Mandasura Empire wants a non-aggression pact. I'm going to take that, even if that will hurt my influence per turn. We'll accept it for a little while. Ooh, we could get slave processing facilities, which will give us slave armies. Now, slave processing facilities will reduce the political power of your slaves, which is quite handy because it means they have less of an impact on the stability and politics of your empire. And it will increase their output slightly. It'll also give me access to slave armies, which are masses of armies, and they're quite cheap to produce. So yes, let's go for neural implants. I never thought I would create a toxic god slaving despot of an empire, but that is what we have done. Right, let's go ahead and unlock star holds. This will allow me to upgrade the level of my defense stations. And speaking of defense stations, I think it's time for us to design some defense platforms. We will of course be going with hangars, because our goal is to make it so that our stations are just really, really good against fleets that don't have point defense, which they should be building. It also makes them really, really good at protecting our trade, actually, too. To the point where we probably, I think we do need this patrolling fleet to keep piracy in check, actually. So we found the Xenac multi-system, and I don't know where they are. They are over here. So these are the guys that attacked me. Now that's going to tell me that I need to get a construction ship over here, because I need to get control of at least maybe Sulan as a fortress station. So I'll go ahead and claim all 3 of these. Boom, boom, boom. Just to be able to maybe build a fortress here in Sulan, which will act as the border between me and their empire. So I want to... Essentially, borders are beginning to solidify. We've solidified our borders on the left here. We're also going to have to think about spreading down this line. There's just a lot going on that we need to keep abreast. We just unlocked slave armies. Ground defense planning would be good. I want more naval capacity. I also need to build more fleets. So we have our cold fusion reactor. Improved point defense isn't particularly useful to me. I think I will take planetary FTL inhibitors. What this will do is it means enemy fleets can't just walk past our defense stations. They have to actually fight them. We've run out of jobs on the fortress station. I'm trying to think what could be useful on here. I suppose some gene clinics would allow the population to grow faster. On this planet, I want only blurglings to grow, because the Tials actually have no ability to do jobs on this planet, and that is by design. They do not belong on this. And so I'll put him back on Iramus where he belongs. It's totally fine for them to spawn on this planet, because here they can actually do work. So if I look at these soldier jobs, they can actually fulfill soldier jobs. And okay, how do I get stability up? It looks like most of the stability problem is coming from stellar culture shock, which should go away. We're pretty close to the end of that. But I think we've done about 30 years of setting up the Children of Blurgle for success. And we're on to phase 3 of the quest for the Toxic God. So in this first episode, I was trying to talk through all the events that are happening. In the next episode, I'm going to be skipping over a lot more stuff that happens and just giving you more of the highlights. And then in the episode after that, I'll probably be playing multiple hours where I talk very little except for the highlights, like a war, a battle, this, that, the other, and the major story beats of our campaign. But I hope this was a good introduction about why we're building these buildings, to get science so that we can tech and increase the efficiency of our empire and all that sort of stuff. And if you have questions about Stellaris in the game, or if you'd like to see me do more of a tutorial-oriented series for people who play Civ, I will totally be down for that. But other than that, I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!